Hi there, everybody. This is Brad Farris from Anchor Advisors. I'm here with my friend Janusz, who's me in the UK. What's the name of your firm?
Nice and easy. Digital agency coach.
I thought that, and then I thought that's too easy. So
It
there we go.
says what it does on the tin. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory.
And so we're here today. We want to talk a little about how to improve the overall performance of your agency by improving what goes on in between your ears. Before we started recording, we were talking about how big a factor your confidence, the owner of the business, your confidence is on the performance of the agency. And so first, let's just set the stage with that. Janusz, when you look at your clients, what do you see different in the firms that have that swagger, that have that it factor?
Yeah, a really apt conversation. So I had an agency contact me yesterday. Micro agency, I think one guy and 4 freelancers. And I was speaking to him about him potentially joining a mastermind group. And we went through the numbers. You know, tell me about your agency, tell me about your headcount, tell me about your revenue, tell me about what you charge on an hourly basis. And his hourly fee was, how do I say this? Probably less than you could earn stacking shelves in a supermarket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yet was serving UK-based agency with UK-based employees with UK-based clients. Okay. Really, really lovely guy. Really enjoyed speaking with him and had a really, really clear vision in place and had to have a conversation about, look, what you're charging isn't going to get you there. In fact,
That's right.
How you're still going right now amazes me. And I think from a confidence perspective, I think we've all been there. We've all started our agency at some point, and we look out into the market and we see all these big swanky agencies with cool websites and an about us page with 100 people on there and big brands as clients and all that kind of thing. And so we see that, okay, the only way that we compete with these guys is on cost. So we charge next to nothing. So we start off, I think, from unless we've been handed something on a plate, we start off from a position of low confidence and feel like at some point this thing's going to click and then I'm going to feel confident and then I'm going to earn this merit that allows me to charge the big fee. So I think we've all probably been there. We've been in that unconfident space where we feel like we're not warranted to charge that much. And then on the flip side of the coin are those agencies with tons of confidence, tons of swagger. They charge the the high hourly fee. They have the cool clients, they have the nice website. They and they win a lot of their leads, and they build that good chemistry, I think, with their clients. But they've been through that journey too. They've probably started off, I think, in a position of low confidence. And so there's this gap, I think. How do we get from, the guy I spoke to 2 days ago of feeling like the minnow and wanting to compete in the big leagues? How do we take that leap, I think is the question, right? What do you see? What's your observation?
So I think they're the shortcut, right? The people who start on second base are people that started in a big agency and then went out on their own. Mm. And what I see with those folks is that they know they can do the work, right? They know they can make a difference for the clients. And so they don't go through as much of that imposter syndrome. It happens in other areas, but at least not with the clients. And so where I see the confidence making a huge difference is the offer that they make. That they're sitting in front of a client and they're like, I know I can double your leads. I know I can change the way the customers perceive what you're doing. You're spending twice as much money as you should, and if you spend half that money with me, I'll get you twice the results. They're able to make those kind of bold offers that when you put something like that forward and show that kind of swagger, your clients notice, right? They come towards you. Stuff closes more easily. They want you to be right? They're cheering for you. Whereas if you come in and you say, I think I could probably make some improvement and things would likely get a little better, it's not enough. It's not overcoming the doubts that the client has in your ability. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those less confident agencies as well, from a pitch process, what you see is a pitch and a proposal that's process-led, process-heavy.
Yes.
I'm not going to show you because I don't really know and I'm not confident in the results I can generate for you. Therefore, I'm going to talk about how we do it. And hopefully you will buy into our method and our thoroughness, because it's, I'm just going to talk at you and hopefully something sticks. I'm going to throw some stuff at the wall. And I think if you're watching this and your proposals and your pitches talk a lot about how you do the thing that you do rather than the results and what you're going to generate, then, we see a lot of that, a hell of a lot of that. And I'm not buying that. I'm buying, if I'm buying a website from you, I'm not buying a website. I'm not buying the way you do it. I'm kind of buying leads and business from you. And that's about results.
One of my mentors said to me over and over again, no one cares about how you do something unless they know it's going to make a difference for them. Right. And so you always have to lead with the result. If we're working together, you're going to see this kind of a result and you're going to be stunned and this is going to change. We have to lead with the transformation that we're going to make. And then people might care about how we're going to do it. But the dirty secret is sometimes they just don't.
Yeah. And do you know what? There is an Easter egg. There's a thing that we've all seen. There is a clue in something that we've all seen as agency owners. And actually, I'm smiling because this was me. And, we were the dev agency. We did the pitches. Hey, look, we're sprint based and we have stand-ups and we use this deployment tool and hey, look how, because of all this thing, and we weren't winning very much. And then I remember we pitched with another agency and they had an executive summary at the start of the pitch, right? One pager. This is what we do. This is the results you're going to get. This is how much it's going to cost. And I asked the other agency, what is it about this executive summary? And it just clicked, it's like, oh, okay, there we go. That's the benefit. That's the benefit of what we're doing. Maybe I should be talking more about. So we've all seen these executive summaries. That's why they exist. It's the shortcut to tell, paint the picture of the future of what this person you're pitching to is going to get as a consequence of you, of you working with them. The top 1%, the top 2%, what do they do? What practically do we see those guys doing when they're pitching and they have that swagger?
So when I see those top people pitching, well, first of all, I want to back up one step and say the people that are really great at keeping that swagger and confidence going, they know that that's an asset for them. And they are taking proactive steps before they get into the pitch, not to get knocked off that horse, right? And so if there's stuff they're not good at, if there's stuff that people are asking for that's not really in their wheelhouse, they're saying no to that stuff because they know they can't walk in there with that same knock it out of the park every time kind of voice, and recognizing that that's the asset that they're bringing into the pitch. They're just not going to go there, right? They're very disciplined about what they chase after. Do you see that?
Absolutely. And sadly, I think we're going to come back to positioning again, right? Yes. Because all of my talks end up at positioning, I'm sure. It's really, really, if you're tightly positioned, and I used to, again, this agency that we used to pitch with, who had a really, really good win ratio, they were focused on third sector businesses, charities and membership organisations, that kind of thing. And the guy that worked with them, the guy that we pitched with, he was the MD of the other agency. He used to work for a lot of these charities as a CMO, so he knew charities inside out. We pitched with him, I think, 23 times or something, won 23 pitches. Like, it was nuts. And I used to think it was me. It was all down to him. And he won the pitch before we even got into that pitch room.
Yes.
All right. Because he was just able to ask really, really smart questions.
Yes.
He didn't tell or say. He asked these questions that only somebody who knew the client's market as well as he did would be in a position to be able to ask it, And if you're not tightly positioned and you're speaking to every type of client about every type of work, you haven't got that deep level of expertise, So you're saying yes to everything, and it's really hard for you to talk with confidence about stuff because you really don't know. You don't know that domain and that and your client's world as well as you could have if you had that really, really tight positioning.
You're totally right. I think the other thing that when you said that I recognized is that we have this mantra of we need to listen to the customer. Those people that have that confidence, they listen to the customer in a different way. They don't listen and say, "Oh, you want that? We can give it." Right? They're not responding to what the customer is saying. They're responding to what the customer needs or what they're not saying, right? That there's a different way that they're listening to go past what the initial ask is.
Yeah, which comes from that level of understanding, right? If you don't know, if you're working with retailers, e-commerce based businesses, and you don't know e-commerce retail, you ask the question, you get the response, you give a superfluous answer. But if you know e-commerce and retail, and you know the market, and you know that e-commerce is exploding because of COVID, and you know that the conversion rate of Shopify over Magento is 5% better because, you can respond to those fears, I think, those pains that the clients are having that they might not have raised through that conversation. And hey, you're now the teacher, and wow, God, I want to buy from you because you know my world as well as I do, and I'm more likely to pay more for that service because all these other agencies are saying yes to everything and don't have any kind of deep level of expertise in there.
I'll give you an example of that. Back when I worked in corporate, I went on a pitch with my boss, who was way more experienced than I was, and the prospect said, we're looking for someone with this specific expertise and someone who's done this type of work over and over again. And immediately in my head, I'm like, we haven't done any of that kind of work. Like, where's a case study that I can pull that would be even close to something like they're asking for? And instead, my boss says, we haven't done any work like that, and we don't have any of those case studies. Is there a reason we should keep talking? And he just stopped. And what was amazing was the prospect said, yeah, actually, there is a reason we should keep talking. And the prospect then told us why they had called us specifically. And what was it that they saw that drew them to us. And then he started from there and worked forward to win the deal. And so that, to me, that confidence of being willing to walk away, to being willing to say no, it changes the power dynamic in a really significant way.
Absolutely, you took the words right out of my mouth. In my head, I was lining up power dynamic, and you and you used them. It puts the shoe on the other foot. The other part. You've created demand now. Yes. Oh no, don't go, please. And that's a really strong buying signal. It's a
really strong buying signal. Exactly.
If you mess it up from that point onwards, then you've said something seriously wrong.
So let's assume we have our positioning right, because people have been listening to us and they fixed their positioning, but they still don't quite have that swagger or confidence. Are there some things that you would recommend that people do in order to kind of build that up in a different way? I feel like confidence is one of these things that if you chase after it, it eludes you, right? But there are ways we can build into ourselves more value or more expectation of people respecting us.
Yeah, I think so. So I think it probably starts before the positioning, right? So if you are positioned, if your agency does something that you know intimately well, right? So my business, I work with digital agencies because I used to run one. Yeah, and then I've worked with a ton, so I now got some broad expertise. So when I speak to agency owners now, I know it, all right? And I love it. I feel incredibly fortunate. I get paid to do something that I really, really love. So I have passion and I have a deep level of knowledge. And so with that, when a lot of agency owners have very, very similar types of challenges. With modern day artisan, I find it struggle to manage and lead teams and all that kind of stuff. So I'm having a conversation with a client that my type positioning based on my own experience and the fact that I love doing what I do means I can come across in that conversation with passion because I actually enjoy it. I'm not dealing with IFAs, which I would find incredibly dull and boring, and probably wouldn't turn up to the sales call, but I love working with agency owners, so my passion comes across. And I feel like I have this deep level of domain expertise. When I have a conversation, I can ask questions and interact and deliver some value through the sales process. I can offer some advice. It's like, oh, you're 5 or 6 people and you've got no time, and etc. Is it because of this? And that question, is it because of this, illustrates that I've been through this before. So that's a really, really strong position to be in. That's, oh, hang on, this guy might know what he's talking about. I think it's a very... Oh, sorry.
No,
go ahead. I was going to say, and it's, that I think think about also what you're selling. Is it a consultative-based sell or a product-based sell? So if it's a consultative-based sell, like me, selling to other agency owners, there's a little bit of teaching that's got to go on. There's a little bit of dance that I think that needs to happen. And to do that effectively, again, you need the knowledge and the confidence and all that kind of thing. And you mentioned it before. I think the most powerful tool to come across with confidence is when we're young, right? We get out of university and we get our first job and we put some shiny shoes on and a nice suit and we get into our first job and we want to stand out. We're like the stag and we want to get people to notice us. So we make a lot of noise and we tell and we say and we think that that's the way, and hopefully something I say will stick. Listen, ask questions and listen. Think about the people that you respect within business or in industry, and they do more listening, I think, than telling. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. Listen. Repeat back to the person that you're selling to what you've heard and understood. That if they've spoken to you for 15 minutes and you can summarize that in one, wow.
That's right.
Only somebody who knows me, knows my industry as well as you do, can summarize that 15-minute dialogue in 5 or 6 key points.
Yeah.
And I think, do something that you love, position yourself to do it. If you love it, you're more likely to read about it and build up some knowledge. That builds confidence, deliver some value through the sales process. Ask questions, listen and summarize. And I think that's, that's kind of confidence, I think, or enables you, I think, probably to feel confident in a nutshell. What do you think?
Summarizing, I just want to talk about that superpower. For me, for a lot of my career, when I was listening to the other person talk, I was trying to figure out what to say next. And what that means is that I'm not really present to what's going on, right? And that ability to take 15 minutes of someone talking and summarize it in 35 seconds, that only happens if you listen to all 15 of those minutes. And when you do that, when you listen and you're present and you can feed back that summary, people feel loved, right? They feel like you are important to them. And a huge connection is formed out of that. Whether you know what you're talking about or not.
Yeah. And it reminds me of Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. I don't know if you've read. No, so Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator,
yes.
Right? And he did an awesome. I absolutely love that book. Super powerful in any kind of negotiation, sales or management leadership, perhaps with your partner too. And I think he calls it tactical empathy. In that, if you're in an emotional situation, and sales can be, right? That ability to listen, ask questions, to summarize, like you say, makes you feel loved. Wow, this person's actually listened. They've not interjected. They've not spoken over me. They've listened and they've replayed back to me. And it's correct. Wow, they now understand me. We're in the same place.
Right.
And that has built trust. It's lowered the emotion levels of the person that we're speaking to, and now you have a good platform upon which you can proceed. But if you just go straight in there, like the stag when we're younger, feeling that confidence is to burst into the room and start shouting and and telling, that's only going one way. That's probably breeding resentment, I think. Although you are confident, I think it's not having the same positive effect on the person you're speaking to.
So, interestingly, the next thing I'm going to say is sort of a flip side of that, which is, surprisingly, I have found a lot of confidence gets built when I do this, when I make content out in public and show it to other people. Whether it's writing, I write 3 emails a week that I send to agency owners, or doing videos like this. When I put my ideas out there, and then I see what the market says back, right? That helps me to build confidence, because sometimes, I get feedback that says, "Oh, Brad, you're an idiot. You should think about it like this." Great. Okay, now I'm more confident in my new idea because I've heard back from the marketplace. Other times people respond back and say, "Yes, that's exactly the thing." Now I know that this is something that resonates with people that I'm talking to, and so I can bring that idea out again and know that be very confident that I'm going to get a positive reaction back.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you there, Brad, and I think particularly with a lot of my clients, really fearful about doing that. How did you feel the first time you did that? You put your thoughts and opinion, perspective out into the world. What were you feeling when you did it?
So it's interesting. First of all, I started sending emails about 15 years ago, so it's been a long time. But I had someone in my life at that point who was saying, "Brad, anything worth doing is worth doing terribly. Like, the first time that you do it, it's going to be awful, right?" Mm-hmm. And writing in particular for me is really hard. I can get a decent, crappy first draft done in a half an hour. But for me to make it something that someone else wants to read, it was 4 more hours to get something that, that was clear and that was grammatically correct and, all that kind of stuff. And so I figured out that if I just did that crappy first draft, I could hire an editor to do the 4 hours of making it make sense and making it grammatically correct and all those kind of things. And that lowered the barrier to entry for me. I'm only responsible for the crappy first draft. And the editor isn't going to change my voice. They're not going to change my ideas. They're just going to help me to make them more clear. And so it felt terrifying, and when I look back at my writing even 5 years ago, I'm embarrassed by it. But the only way to get to where I am now is to go through those, 1,000 bad takes. When I started a podcast, record 10 episodes and throw them all away, and then release the 11th, because the first 10 are awful.
Yeah, you mentioned barrier to entry there, and I think that's so we talk about the guy I spoke to 2 days ago.
Yes.
Low level of confidence. Confident, I think, but perhaps positioning himself as being less powerful than the big boys. All right, and as a consequence, charges less. And then what are these guys, the big boys, doing? Right. And we feel like there's a barrier in between us, but I think that barrier is perceived rather than real. Robert Craven, who runs a consultancy that I do a lot of work for, in one of his books describes the expert model, right? And this being, for us to be an expert, for us to be a thought leader, we don't know what it is, but we feel like we need some kind of merit behind us in order for us to, some kind of badge that says, "Hey, I'm a thought leader now. Now I am qualified to go out and stand on stage and speak and write a white paper," and that kind of stuff. And the reality is there isn't, right?
Right.
What an expert just does a load of stuff. They talk, they write, they put their voice out there, they have the contacts, they go to the right events. There's just a load of stuff that experts do that we associate with them, and then when we see them in the outside world, we feel like, oh, they're an expert, but they haven't gone to university and got the expert degree. Bless you. And I think that's that barrier of entry. So we don't know when we're less confident. We don't know what's the badge, what's the thing that makes us an expert, what qualifies me to go out there and do this thing. And like you say, you've got to start somewhere. Take the leap. Do the first thing. Put your opinion out there. If somebody challenges you on it, awesome. That's a conversation you can have, and and we're not right all of the time. Absolutely not.
One of my first clients said to me, "Brad, you can always say in my experience. You might have 10 minutes of experience, but in my experience, this is what works. It's no one's saying you have to have 20 years of experience.
Yeah.
People are hiring you to hear what you know and believe, and so put it out there. You have to put something out there."
Yeah.
Another thing that I find critical, and I'm curious to hear what you think about this, especially when you run a small agency, there are parts of your job that you're good at and that you enjoy, and there are parts of your job that stink. For me, accounting and working with my calendar. Like, I can mess up a calendar entry every possible way, right? Put it on AM, put it on the next day, put it on the wrong week. I can screw it up every way that you can possibly screw it up. And when I screw up calendar entries on the regular, it doesn't make me very confident, right? It makes me feel kind of like a doofus. And so by getting that stuff off my plate so that I don't have the chance to fail 5 times a day, that kind of changed my game in terms of feeling like I was good at the job that I have to do. Is that something that resonates with you?
100%. And I mean, you've met Claire. So Claire, you've met Claire virtually.
Carmen,
anybody
who's my Claire, has met Claire a lot more than I.
Yeah, exactly. For the very same reason. So you and I, we have assistants who does the same kind of thing, and it's a big deal for me actually, that calendar thing. I have a lot of anxiety actually around making calendar bookings because I have this fear of letting people down. I have this fear of the person who's on the other end of the line waiting for me not turning up, them having negative thoughts about me, have this enormous sense of drive to please people and not let people down. And the thought that somebody will be pissed off with me because I couldn't even turn up for a meeting just fills me with dread. And so when I go near my calendar, and like you, I mess it up every single way. Everywhere. And the thought of actually putting something into my calendar gives me some anxiety because I'm like, what butterfly effect is this going to set off when I create this calendar invite? The internet has broken because of bad meetings that I've scheduled. It's
embarrassing that if I'm on the phone with someone, they'll say, "Hey, let's put something on the calendar," and I'll say, "I'd love to do that, but I'm terrible at it. I'm to do it wrong."
Yeah, and I have to explain that. Likewise, I have to put my hand up and be vulnerable and say exactly the same thing. I would love to, but bad things will happen if I go and do this. And I say that I've delegated kind of my accountability to Claire for a lot of these things. It's like all the stuff that I'm rubbish at, all the stuff that I don't enjoy, all the stuff that causes me stress. Claire does on my behalf, and she's 10 times better at it than me, and we have processes for her to do it, and the world is a better place. And like you say, I'm now doing more of the things that I love, that I enjoy, that I read around, and all that kind of stuff. And from that creates a bit of a flywheel and a bit of a catalyst. I'm a huge advocate actually for agency owners, for virtual assistants of some sort.
Yes.
A lot of agency owners have failed, I think, with them, in that they've said, "Oh, I should get a virtual assistant," and they onboard them and they expect that assistant to immediately to be able to dive into the head of the agency owner and do their thinking for them. And it's take your time. Calendar management is your first thing to get off your plate, and then the next thing, setting up contracts, is the second thing, and just build it up over time, and all of a sudden you've got 2 days a week back and you're just doing stuff that you love. I'm a huge advocate of assistants and virtual assistants when done in the right way.
So we talked earlier about making big claims. And the enemy of that, I think, is imposter syndrome, right? Where we just feel like how could I say that I'm going to make that transformation? How can I say that I'm going to do that thing? How do you help people that are kind of stuck in that loop where they know they need to make bigger claims and they have even a track record of having delivered that, but it's still hard for them to put it out there?
Yeah. My advice probably isn't the most useful, I think. Which is get over it, you've got to do it. There is a value exchange going on with your clients. Your client's giving you some money and they expect something in return, and without that guarantee, dare I say it, that de-risking of the thing that we're exchanging, that's not a fair trade.
That's right.
I'm afraid, and I'm paying you for some kind of a result. If I go to the hairdressers and get a haircut, I expect to walk out with a haircut. Bad example for me, but there is a value exchange. That your clients are looking for something to make a pain go away, from their side. That's what they're looking for. We have to get over that. We have to understand what the need is, what pain that they have, what we can do to satisfy that pain, and what commitment we can give, I think, because otherwise it's not a win-win. And I understand, particularly with agencies in digital marketing, how can we guarantee results, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I understand it might be difficult, but you're more likely to get more sales if you can. In some way offer that guarantee, I think. So I know it's a controversial point, but I think we do need to get over that fact and just make it front and center of the thing that we're offering. What do you think? What's your perspective on it?
Well, so there's two things I would add there. One is I hear a lot of people who want to make that big claim and then they put a whole bunch of disclaimers.
Yeah.
We can double your results if you do this and if this happens and, the bidding platform and just leave that stuff out. You don't have to say all that stuff, right? You can say, I can double your results. Now, to do that is going to require a lot from you, right? You can challenge them to rise to the occasion. And oftentimes clients respond really well to that, right? If you put something together that has a lot of confidence and say, but this is going to require you to do, to show up to the meetings and to be prepared and to review things on time, that is a way of putting those caveats in there in a way that doesn't take away from the promise that you're making. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. And let's be honest, when we offer this guarantee, of course it's contingent on some other stuff, of course it is. Yeah. And I think the client's going to be perfectly reasonable with the fact that I can double your results as long as the website is online and, the shopping cart isn't broken and all that kind of stuff. That's perfectly reasonable, but, so we can put those guarantees forward, and it's totally cool. And the client's, I think, going to accept it. But often we're just really fearful of doing it. So, I can't guarantee results because of all this other stuff. But we're dealing with humans. I think we know that there's two sides to every story.
The other thing that those promises that you're making in the sales cycle, people don't really hold you accountable to those. I mean, that's the secret, right? If you say I'm going to double your result, and 6 months later you've only made a 40% increase. They're going to love the 40% increase, right? Like, as long as they see you engaged in the problem and you are putting your best work forward and you're in partnership with them, they're going to be happy with the results. They're not going to be happy if it's 10% less. But if you hadn't made that promise, they would still be unhappy with 10% less, right? And so,
absolutely. I was going to say, and I think you have, let's not forget, you're not signing a contract in the pitch room. You've got an onboarding process and you've got contracting and, all that kind of stuff to go through to iron out the details. Right. So I really like the way that you phrase that. Like, we can double your results, but it's going to require some stuff from you. At the same time, you're going to have to work hard to get there too. I really like the message that sends. And you've still got 3 weeks to figure out them, to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Even the less confident business owners have had the experience of selling something and then driving back to the office thinking, How am I going to do that? I got to figure something out about that.
Yeah.
But that's why you have a team. Your team is smarter than you. You're going to throw that over the wall, and they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brad, let's start wrapping up. What's your? I'm going to ask you first, so I have time to think about mine. What's your top tip for confidence for agency owner, creating some swagger and confidence for you when you walk into that virtual pitch room at the moment and try and convince a client to buy from you?
So I have two things that I'm going to throw out there. And the first one is kind of counterintuitive. You can practice making big promises to yourself. Like for me, when I started working out every day and I got up early in the morning and went to the gym and came back, I was so much more confident because I had done something hard already and it wasn't even 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And so making a promise to yourself and then delivering on it is one easy way that you can, without taking huge risks, build your own personal confidence. The second thing is you don't have to just do it in the pitch room. You could take existing clients and start making bigger promises with them to practice. And say, okay, in the next 2 weeks, I think we can move the needle this much. Are you guys on board with working with us on that? This is what's going to be required, but I want to see in the next 2 weeks for us to get here. And to start leading your existing clients with that same kind of swagger and confidence. And when you see yourself building results there, you're going to get better results in the pitch room.
Yeah, I love that. I really like that. That's powerful. So mine is the Japanese concept of ikigai.
Yes.
IKI. Now, I think if you search for ikigai, the first image you're going to find is this model isn't ikigai. It's going to tell you, right? But I think the concept is if you can do something that you love, that the world needs, that there's a market for, and that you're good at, if you can shape your business around those four things, you're good at it, so you know it. You love it, so you're passionate about it, and you have confidence anyway. There's a market for it. Somebody's wanting to buy from you. Like that's confidence in a nutshell. Shape and position your business around that. Positioning your business around your ikigai, and it's just easy. It becomes natural. I think we don't have to train ourselves to be confident. We can, if we're into football or into e-com or into develop or whatever, that's our world. If we're going to, in the evenings, read blogs about project management, because we just love project management, it doesn't feel like work.
That's right.
It feels like a hobby, and you're just building up this domain of expertise the whole time. So ikigai, I think would be that's the precursor to confidence. It make it feel natural.
I love that. And when you find that thing, what you find out is you've been doing it your whole life.
Yeah. And yeah, very true. Very, very true. Brad, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for speaking with me.
It's been too much fun. I love these topics, and I think we've got a great topic for next time too, so I'm looking forward to that.
Looking forward to it. Brad, as always, take care and see you next time.
All right, see you.
See you.